Hi and welcome to Out of Spec Renew. I'm Jerome. I'm the editor of the EV Builder's Guide and I've been working in the EV industry for about 7 years. On this new channel, we're visiting specialists all over the world, converting classic cars and trucks to electric, but also individual modifying their OEM EVs. For this first episode, I visited Moment Motors in Dallas, Texas. So let's jump right into it. All right, welcome to Austin. We are at Moment Motors Company, and Marc is going to tell us about how you set up an EV conversion shop, how you grow your business, and how you modify those cars. So please tell us when you started and the type of vehicles you're converting.
Sure. We started in 2017, and the idea back then really was, how can we make a set of modular components that we can convert just about any vehicle that came to us?
So from the get-go, you knew you wanted to have a modular system rather than doing individual cars.
Exactly. And I think the motivation there was we didn't know who was going to be interested in this. If you think, 2016, 2017, we wanted to be able to do whatever somebody wanted to convert. So,
could you tell us real quick, because we started with this? So specs.
This one we're very excited about. This is a 1972 Chevrolet Blazer. It is a four-wheel drive vehicle, and we've converted it to be an all-wheel drive vehicle with a central mounted Tesla drive unit. It's got a full 100 kilowatt hour pack, which you need when you're moving around a lot of metal. It's fantastic. It really is incredible. You can almost chirp all four wheels in it. It's really
all right. So we'll go a bit deeper into the process in a minute, but let's have a look inside and see what you do.
Let's do it.
So tell us about the Jag.
Sure, the Jaguar. Everybody's, when we started, it was right around the time that the royal couple got married and went off, and I fielded so many calls about Jaguars, but I think most people aren't fully familiar with just how expensive Jaguars can be. So we had a lot of discussions and they didn't go anywhere, but we're very excited that this one ended up being committed to doing it, and we developed all of our systems, and we've put them together in this example, and we're really excited. The end result is fantastic. We've been burning up the tires on this car and driving it around town. It's been a really incredible car. So
so this is the first Jaguar you've built?
Yes, it's a '66. It is a Series 1, so it's a beautiful car. And it's got a 60 kilowatt hour battery pack. It's got a Cascadia SS250 with a CM200 inverter. So around about 300 horsepower-ish, around 375 foot-pounds of torque,
which is way more than what this was.
Oh yes, it really is. It's an amazing drive. It's really enjoyable.
So do you have to rethink the whole drivetrain and the rear diff, especially the Jaguar is a bit
tricky. Sure. I mean, so this kind of comes back to our underpinnings, right? Which is, we have a set of modular components, different battery boxes that we have different configurations of that we try to use every single time. And from a standpoint of growing this business, we don't want to have to reinvent everything every single time we do it, right? So we want to use some of the same components, but we have to be flexible enough to apply them. And I think the Jaguar is one of those hilarious cars where everybody looks at it and sees that long nose and sees the hood and thinks, oh, there's so much room in there for batteries, and then you realize actually when you get in there, there's very little space. So it required us to do some pretty creative, stacking of battery boxes and components under there, but we got it all to fit, and it's I think this is a really great package.
So the plan is to build more then from now on?
Yes. So, and we really, honestly, Trump, we build every car that way. We really think about that there might be more, so let's try to focus on, how we could do this, repeatedly.
So you have three battery packs.
Three battery packs. Three battery boxes in here, and they're using VDA 355 modules. They're the 2.6 kilowatt hour modules. So that's the entirety of it. There's 2/3 of the battery weight is up front, 1/3 in the back. So we keep the balance of the car. The ride height, looks good. Everything is, and the handling is preserved.
Is the weight distribution a bit better than it was originally?
I think so. I think anytime, they're always a little bit heavier in the engine bay because the battery boxes are just a little bit heavier. So when you balance it out by putting a single battery box in the rear, I think it gives you it's good. I mean, that's obviously where the gas tank was, so there was always a little bit of weight back there, but I think it really evens itself out quite nice.
What did you do for the brakes?
So the brakes, I mean, this is a Jaguar, right?
Yeah, that's what
and so asking. So that is a great That is a great, question, and it's something that we have to address on every one of the cars that we do. Right? Are the brakes capable enough? And in the case of this car, it's they're more than capable. The renowned Jaguar rear end with this the inboard discs. It's 4-wheel discs. It's a great system. The one downside is when you convert, as everybody knows, you end up having to deal with the fact that you no longer have a source of vacuum, right? So, and in this car, if you look at how the master cylinder and the pedal mechanism is all working, it really is a pretty complicated, very particular thing for a Jaguar. So we decided to leave that in place and just use an external vacuum pump with a reservoir. Other cars, we would put a Tesla or a Bosch iBooster in it and stuff like that. But in this car, it made sense to keep the original.
Can you select the type of regen?
Yes, absolutely. Right. So, and I think that's another topic that comes up, especially when you're dealing with a rear-wheel drive car, right? So regen is great and we all want it, but if it can only affect the driven wheels, right? And so if you are not careful and you allow somebody to have a lot more regen than they need, if
then
you aren't,
slide.
then you slide. Then you have some downsides to that. So we like to, fundamentally, we really do try to set the cars up so that it feels like engine braking, maybe a little bit more, and then I think it gives a very natural feel to the car. When it's
perfect.
Yeah.
All right. So let's see why I thought you were mainly doing Mercedes.
Yes, that's a great idea.
There's a few of them.
Yes, there are. We have quite a few. So the Mercedes, these SLs, the W113, or the commonly referred to as the Pagoda, we had a lot of interest in these, and so we started out with an individual, a client who wanted to do this, but we started getting more and more, and we thought that we could build a really compelling platform for this. Very similar from a standpoint of the drivetrain to the Jaguar. Same motor. We're using the Cascadia SS250, the CM200 inverter, and the similar size battery pack. It's a 60 kilowatt hour battery pack, which we are getting probably about 175 miles of range.
Wow.
Which I think is fantastic. Okay. It balances out great. Again, it's we have the room in the front of the car for for 2/3 of the battery pack and 1/3 in the rear, so it all ends up working well. The thing that we did special with this, and this is kind of where our business is moving. Back in 2016 and 2017, when we're first starting, if anybody had a car that they wanted to convert, we would say, okay, we'll do it. Right? Yeah. Sounds great. Now, really where you can get the the repeatability, the scalability is to be able to do multiples over and over again. And I think what we've done here is we have a really well thought out package that we could apply to all of these cars. And then more importantly, we work with a company in South Florida that does the restorations. Okay. And so we have the ability for somebody to come to us and say, I want a 280 SL, and pick the color, pick the interior, pick whatever options they want. If you want power steering, you want power brakes, whatever you want, we have all of the ability to do that and really build them a custom electric classic car.
That's always something we try to push is if anyone wants to start a business, they have to understand that scaling is the only way to grow the business. Right. Doing one-off is exciting when you start your business. That's something you need to go through, but you're not going to make a nice business out of it.
Exactly.
So,
yeah.
So everyone has to find his own niche, and it's obviously market dependent. Right. But yeah, going back also to the fact that you use a supplier to restore, to do the restoration, shows you bring value converting the cars. Right. You should not spend time restoring the car. I mean, you can, but if you want to scale your business, there's no way you can actually do it with doing restoration and sourcing parts and finding parts for models you've never touched before. Yes. Whereas if you focus on one model, all the suppliers, you can just call them. Yeah. So that makes a huge difference.
We learned that lesson on our first car. I remember the first car was a 1968 Porsche 912, and the owner said, "Oh, we're going to convert it. Let's just go get a ratty old 912." And we got a pretty rough example, and you do all the conversion work on it, and you say, this is not worth doing it on that. And so you go down that path of trying to do the restoration yourself, and it's an endless process. It's really better to have it specialized, and so that's what we do. We work with these external shops to do the specialized work that they do, and then we do our specialized work, which is the drive.
And maybe for EV conversion or any restoration,
Right.
always start with the best car you can find. Spend the money on it because you're going to save so much money down the line.
I totally agree. We tell people that all the time, which is that the restoration process is incredibly long, incredibly difficult, and rarely is the car worth this, worth how much you put into it to do the risk, unless you do the work yourself. So if you're looking for a car to restore, or you're telling your client what to do, the best thing is to go and find a fully restored car and start with that. You can even recoup some money on the drivetrain that you're no longer using too.
So let's have a look under the hood of this one.
Sure.
Then we'll come back and you can tell us exactly your strategy as far as the battery pack design.
The SLs are an example of a car that we do repeatedly, but I think every car that comes into our shop that is new to us, and this was once new to us, we go through the same process, right? So obviously remove the engine, the drivetrain, but then we 3D scan the engine bay, and we bring all of those scans. We not just the engine bay, we do the transmission tunnel, undercarriage, trunk, often the cabin as well. Anything we're going to touch, we want a virtual representation of that in our CAD application. So we have that all there, and then we start dropping in place our components. And like I said before, we have modular battery boxes and modular motor mounting systems that we're trying to reuse every time we do. And so we'll drop in a battery box like this. This is a good example. This is what we call our 44W. So it's actually 4 layers of VDA 355 modules in what we call the W, or the wide orientation. And so this unit right here is 2/3 of the 60 kilowatt hour pack, so it's about 40 kilowatt hours. Internal BMS, fusing, all of that, and then we drop that in first virtually and figure out what position it needs to be in. And so you can see, obviously this battery pack has to tilt a little bit to fit underneath the hood. So we go through those design processes in CAD, and then what we're really doing is we're producing a separate library of parts that are specific to the chassis, right? So we have our reused components, and then we have the library of parts for the SL. So the other things that we have to do is, you got to address things like the brakes, right? So are we going to use, like we said in the Jaguar, vacuum pump, or in this case, we're using a Tesla derived Bosch iBooster. We have, full air conditioning. So we have a AC compressor. This one has power steering. So we have a power steering pump as well. Yeah. So pretty much any option that you might have in one of these cars, we need to be able to convert and make work in the electrified version of it. So.
Could you tell us exactly why you opted for those modules in particular?
That's a great question. So, I think this industry, when I started, we were using those, Cal LiFePO 4, gray cells, right? And that was really kind of state of the art. It was just then that, people were starting to do the Tesla Model S and Model X modules, and we started using them as well. But obviously, they're not something that you can get a new supply of, right? So throughout this whole process, we've been looking for, a good solution that we can purchase, not only purchase new, but be able to purchase from multiple vendors, right? So to have that independence is really nice. And so landing on the VDA standard, I think, was a great one. We're not only using the 355s here, but in the new battery boxes and modules, the new systems that we're developing are geared around the 590 modules, which are a much larger capacity and allows us to kind of break through this 60 kilowatt hour barrier here. But this is a great size and a great configuration for this size vehicle, and it's something that we use repeatedly in lots of different vehicles. So
will this setup work on most of the other Mercedes-Benz of this size, say a coupe?
Yes.
Yeah.
So we actually just took in a beautiful 280 SE, which is the coupe, and rough measurements have been taken already, and it'll be a perfect match for that too. We find that now that we don't have 17 different battery boxes, we have about 4 or 5, right? But we find that if you design them appropriately, you're able to apply that approach to a lot of different vehicles. And so almost every car you see here has some variation on this approach.
Where do you build those battery packs?
We build them here. So the battery, all of the box designs are our own, and we get those machined and manufactured in a machine shop in China. And then they are shipped over to us. We do the assembly here. We do the powder coating here. We make everything look nice and pretty here. when we're doing just the brackets and the platforms and the various things that are chassis specific, we try to do that domestically. So there's a lot of laser cut and bent and CNC machined solutions that we try to do locally here.
What about the wiring loom and
the wiring loom? We do everything that here. Actually, that's over here. So we can see that. Yeah, we have a full wiring harness approach. So we have two different styles of wiring harness that we'll use for these vehicles. In the case of the SL, where we know we're going to have multiple vehicles that we're going to do, we'll go and we'll do a bespoke designed harness for it that's very specific, and it takes all the routing into account, and it's very efficient and makes it go everywhere. If we think that the vehicle is possibly a one-off or not going to not going to have multiples of it, we do have our own designed kind of junction box essentially that makes doing the custom. This is an example that where there's one leg that will go and go to the VCU, and one leg that will go to the to the PDUs and things like that, and it makes it easier for us to do in-house and not have to go all the way through the entire design process. So. What
about charging?
Sure. So charging, obviously, we have onboard chargers with combined DC-DC converters, for J1772 6.6 kilowatt chargers. We are ready for CCS. Our vehicle control system at this point doesn't yet support it, but we're ready for that feature to be added and enabled on these vehicles.
And eventually the North American standard.
Exactly. And actually hoping that that's really kind of where we end up. I think that makes everything, anybody who's tried to fit a CCS plug in a vehicle knows it would be a whole lot better if we were up an ACS for sure.
All right, let's go to the next one. Completely different setup and system and motor. So tell us more about
so
G-body.
We love Porsches, and that was, as I mentioned, it was the first car that we converted was a Porsche. This one's pretty unique. So what you see here is the familiar Cascadia inverter, but underneath is an iNetic motor. So that's a company in the UK. This is an IEV 180 6U. So this is the largest one that they make, right? And it's about 350 foot-pounds of torque, maybe 400-ish Newton meters of torque, and roughly around 300 horsepower. So this particular setup is bolted up to the G50 transmission. So the owner,
keep the manual.
Yeah, I mean, So the owner of this is their dream car, right? And they came to us and they said, I didn't think it was possible. I want to retain the feeling of driving my classic Porsche, running up and down the gears. And I found that you could do that. And we said, yes, we could do that. And so this is a car that, was a 3.2, Carrera. Fine vehicle, but 1988, it wasn't going to blow anybody's doors off. Now I'd put it up against a 930 turbo any day. I mean, it's really, really fast. It's really fun to drive too. And so, so we spend a lot of time with that on the on the VCU side of things, right? To make sure that the shifting is natural, right? So watching the clutch and watching the RPMs of the motor, and making sure that when somebody puts in the clutch, that the RPMs fall naturally and engage naturally. So it feels like you're driving a combustion engine car.
So for this one, did you design a specific battery pack, or is it something?
No, it's actually a variation on the theme, right? So the front is what we call the 43W. So it's only 3 stacks of that, and these are back here. We call them the 32W. So they are it's three, but it's just a slightly different configuration. All the same kind of methodology that we take here.
All right.
So here is the classic Spider, the Alfa Romeo Duetto. Beautiful car. You can see kind of the condition that it's in. So it's nice. It's a great driver.
Nice.
It looks nice, but if you get in and you see it, and this is typical, right? When you take the engine out, you've got all of these issues. And this is what we were talking about before, which is this is a situation where we will do the scan, we will get everything ready, and know that we've got everything available to us to do the engineering to adapt the drivetrain, and then we'll send this out. Right, so it's going to go out. It's going to get its engine bay refreshed. It's going to get a new interior. It's going to get a new top and dashboard and things like that. All of that being done by somebody who's an Alfa Romeo expert, right? Exactly. And that way, when we get the car back, we already have everything engineered, ready to go. And this car is beautiful, and it comes in, and we start installing it.
So essentially, you already have all the drivetrain and the battery pack ready. Is it these guys or is it something?
No, those are actually for another Porsche coming in. So, but yes, but it's similar
look
approach,
similar,
right? Exactly.
okay.
So in this particular, it's only 2 battery boxes, but it'll be a very similar approach.
All right.
Yeah. And so then there's this, which is actually, I think I told you earlier. Not only was this our first Healey, but we just got another one, and we have a third coming as well. The second one we got was the exact same color, and the exact same. So nobody believes that we have a new Healey in here, but that's what we have. Again, same thing. Different configuration of the battery boxes, but the same layout. So we have a 60 kilowatt hour pack with the 2/3 of it up front and rear, and the other third in the rear. This one has the Cascadia SS250 and the CM200. Right?
So that must be way more.
So this car,
than original.
This is one of these cars where when we got it done, the guys would go out and take it for a spin, and they'd come back with this very nervous smile on their face. Like,
it's a good sign.
Yeah, exactly. So we've actually had to detune this a little bit. It's too much. We put a LSD in the rear to keep it from peg-legging all the time.
Fun to drive.
But even then, this is a car that can turn into a drift car very quickly if you're not careful.
The hot rod.
Exactly. Yeah. It's really fun. And it was great when the owner came by to pick it up. I had one of our techs take them out for a drive, and they were gone for an hour. I started to get worried, and they came back just laughing. And all he would do is take this car, and you're driving on the highway at 70 miles an hour, and you pull up next to a Porsche, and they kind of wave at you, think you're some old fuddy-duddy in their British sports car, and then you just leave them in the dust. It's a really fun car to drive.
So this was designed for like B roads in the UK, fantastic Cotswold. Do you have nice roads in Austin, like curvy roads, or is
we
just,
do?
Yeah,
we do.
Nice.
Yes, and I think actually what most people don't know about Austin is it is in what's called the hill country of Texas, right? So a lot of Texas is flat, but here in the hill country we have winding roads through hills.
And the lakes.
And the lakes. It's beautiful. It's actually really fun to drive. So
takes me to something else. Is those cars are American customers, but they are from all over the place.
They are. They are. We have customers. Certainly, we have Austin customers. This is an Austin customer, and we were able to bring it down here or take it out to the show. But most of our cars, this gentleman's from Houston. This one is from still in Texas. We have customers from Connecticut. We have customers from Virginia. We have customers from all over the place. We really across the entire U.S. Nobody internationally yet. I don't think it makes much sense for us to do
I don't think so. And also legislation doesn't make it very easy to design a system for an abroad market.
We even have a customer from Hawaii. So that'll be exciting.
Okay. Yeah. All right. The beast.
Oh, the beast. Yes, exactly. So this is going to be fun. So, when we talk about cars that we're hoping to build multiples of, the person we're working with on this has multiples lined up. This is a true 1963 split window coupe, right? This is a lot of people get really, really scared and upset with us for doing this. I will say this: it wasn't a numbers matching car, so it is an authentic body, but it is different. It is one of those cars that you wouldn't necessarily restore.
Was it rebuilt on a new chassis?
It is. So this chassis is an Art Morrison chassis, fully done. It's 4-wheel discs. It's got the ZL1 rear end. This is going to be a special car, so we're going to be doing a much higher horsepower. It'll be a 600 volt system. We're going to be pushing some amps through this one. This should be a real screamer when we're done with it.
So the plan is to do maybe 4 of them for year 1 and see where it takes
and just see where it goes, right? Yeah. And I think that's the exciting one. This one we're fitting 80 kilowatt hours in. This is the new 590 modules in this, so it'll be 80 kilowatt hours. So we should plenty of capacity to get above 200 miles. This is going to be a really, really special car when it's all done.
Should we talk about budget?
I don't know. I mean, this will be a very high dollar budget, right? And likely hard to say when you incorporate all the engineering time, but something that we do with our clients is if it's a car that we've done before, like the SLs, we can quote a very specific price. We know exactly what goes into it. We can print the parts. We can order the parts. Obviously, there's a little bit of supply chain variation, but we're able to do that. For a car like this, there's an embedded amount of engineering to get this right that we have to absorb. And sometimes we do that work, but a lot of times the customer is paying for that. And I think that's really kind of helpful.
Could you take us through the process of starting a build? Like the customer comes in, he knows exactly what he wants, say a 65 Mustang.
Sure.
And how long it will take, if you have the system already designed, if you don't, and then obviously the process of installing it all, doing the restoration if need be, and then delivering.
Right.
Are we talking months? Are we talking years?
Yes, it depends, right? And so if we're doing one of the simpler builds that we do, a good example of that is the Speedsters. We do replica Speedsters. They're very straightforward. We can have all the components ready to go, and we can turn that car around in 2 months or less, right? That is something where the owner comes to us and says they want to do it. Most likely, they don't even have the car yet, so they order it from. We work with vintage motor cars in Los Angeles, and the owner can specify their color and their interior and everything, and they know how to build it and make the small modifications to the fiberglass for us, so that when it comes to us, it's ready for installation, and we can do that very quickly. The SLs. Similar, longer. It's a more complicated and more sophisticated drivetrain. If we had it all prepared for it, it could, we can do the conversion in just a couple months. Most of the time, we're waiting until the car is here, and then we're building all the components as well. And we're trying to, that's part of the the production level work that we're trying to develop for this.
So you're saying maybe in a year or two, you will have system already ready
to go,
ready
right.
to install.
I mean, I think that's one of the the challenges is that if you're a builder and you're trying to predict whether or not you have enough demand for for these cars, buying all of these components, there's often $100,000 worth of just components, right?
Yeah. And also the technology is evolving so quickly.
It is.
Within 6 months, a new module might come out,
and
so you need to redesign your whole system.
Exactly.
And you don't want to sell all technology,
right?
So it's I understand why it's so tricky.
It's a tricky thing. I mean, that's a great example of this this Mustang, where when we started it, we were going to use the the VDA 355 modules and have a 60 kilowatt hour pack, but with this now, there was a pause in this that the owner needed to pause the build, and then we revisited a year later and we say, actually, we're going to put an 80 kilowatt hour VDA 590 in it. And so I'm very excited for it. It ends up being better.
Just any technology. If you wait another year, you get more.
You do get more.
But you wait. So it's the balance.
Exactly.
If you want to drive your car, you want to get the best battery pack in 2 years.
Yeah. And we have that discussion a lot too, because I think people view this as, it's expensive to do this. And so there's a big discussion about whether or not waiting will make the price go down. And the reality is we're in a steep innovation curve right now. So really what happens is, yes, I can build a car with 5-year-old technology, but you don't want it. You want current technology, right? And so the price point for equivalency, might go down, but the price point for what is relevant and current is going to stay the same, if not go up, right? So
and for classic cars, again, the price are not going to go down anytime soon, but hopefully, for like fleet or more like smaller cars, smaller battery packs, then we could have cheaper options down the line. Yeah. But right now, where the industry is, we're just focusing on classic cars because the industry can support this.
It can.
But eventually, I would love to see white vans converted to electric, lorries, big trucks, because they are the one doing the high mileage. These cars, they may do a few thousand miles a year. Right. So it's fantastic to convert them. But I mean, the reality is we need to convert van and so on. Is it something you've considered, a side business where you would focus on fleet trucks, for instance? It's
definitely something we've considered. I think that the challenge is finding that package of components that is at the right sweet spot of the price curve to make that worthwhile, right? I get people very often come to me and they say, "Hey, I have a 1995 Chevy truck, can you convert it?" And the answer is yes, but you probably don't want to spend that much money on it right now. If GM starts producing, and they are starting to do this, drivetrains that are plucked off of their current manufacturing production line, and they can offer them at a price. I mean, you think about it, right? You can buy a Chevy Bolt today for $25,000, right? So buying just the drivetrain of a Bolt ought to be quite affordable if you could, right?
you would think that, as you would buy from the OEM, it might not be the case, but one way the industry might go is just buying complete cars. Say maybe the next generation Tesla Model 3, either chop the top off and use the skateboard chassis, or just reuse the brand new components. It might be cheaper.
Yeah, it's very possible
so
that
might be one way we can make converting classic cars cheaper.
Right. I think and I think the only challenges there are classic car vehicle architecture, be it body on frame or unibody or what have you, depending on the vehicle, you sometimes don't have those options of pulling the body off. So
and also depends on the market you're in.
Exactly.
Some markets will let you modify the car, like the US. Europe is really strict. Australia is the same.
Yep.
China and Asia in general, it's a no-go.
Yeah.
So we'll see why.
We'll see how it goes. I mean, hopefully there's evolution, right? Hopefully, even in policy, we'll start to see things change and open up to this idea.
I know government are pushing it in Europe, for instance, giving incentives. So maybe the federal credit we get in America could be introduced for retrofit. So we'll see.
That would be exciting.
Let's see this blue truck. It's a green truck.
Yeah, it is. So technically, it is a Caribbean turquoise.
Okay, so is it blue or is it green?
It is. Yes, exactly. I guess turquoise is right. What do you? And I love it. And one thing that we always, when the truck arrived, we looked at it and we go, oh my God, this is perfect. Look at the. Look at
they knew back in the day.
Yeah,
this
it has
would be electric.
It has the lightning bolt in it already. So this is using our truck package, and specifically the truck package that we do for our two-wheel drive trucks. It is a four-wheel drive truck, but fundamentally stays driven as a two-wheel drive. It has, again, the Cascadia SS250, but it has a 100 kilowatt-hour pack, same as the Blazer out there. The Blazer represents our four-wheel drive solution. So this is, you can see,
this is heavy.
Yes, exactly. Similarities to what you saw out there in the Blazer. Up front we have 3/4 of the pack is up here. So these are Tesla modules. The next generation of these will be using the 590 modules. So there are 12 modules up here, and in the rear of the truck, just behind the differential, there's another 4 back there to help balance things out. We're able to fit the whole motor and single speed gear reduction unit in the transmission tunnel on this, and so it all leaves everything available. You get power brakes. This one actually doesn't have power steering, but the Blazer has power steering. And we have air conditioning in here, so it's nice. Something in 1960 didn't have. One thing, Jerome, this is kind of interesting to think about. One of the things that why I love doing this is not just, we can sit here and look at all these really cool cars. What I love is the story, right? And our clients are the most important things. We're not here just to make cool Mustangs and cool, Jaguars. We love to do that. But I love the story that's behind these vehicles. And this car, or this truck in particular, the owner, it was his grandmother's. She bought it brand new, and she drove him around on the ranch. He drove it everywhere, and he has such fond memories of sitting next to his grandmother on the bench seat and driving it. And then when he got it from her, he wanted to preserve it and continue to have it for his sons and daughters to drive. It's a very special vehicle to him, and we just had him here test driving it around. It was really fun, and you could just see this big smile on his face because he was driving his grandmother's old truck.
Fantastic, and and there's still plenty of room. It's easy, accessible for servicing. So
exactly,
you're lucky enough to have like a huge engine bay.
Yes, exactly. I mean, that's part of the beauty of the big American trucks, right?
And I like the covers you fit on all the.
Yeah, we do this, and we do some slick things. I mean, this is nice and cute. You can see though, we have magnetic panels to get, so you don't have to stare at ugly parts all the time. We have those hidden away. It makes it nice and slick. And
let's have a walk around, because outside, I mean, there's no exhaust pipe, but you cannot tell if this has been converted to electric.
And that's something that's something that I think is important to us. We never put, although this has the lightning bolt in its logo, but we don't put, big signs, electric on it or anything like that. It's really, I want the owners and the general public to appreciate these cars for what they are. They see them and they go, oh my God, that's beautiful. And really, we call it the double whammy, right? Which is when they pull up next to you and they say, beautiful truck, is it all original? And you say, well, not quite. And you tell them it's electric, and it blows their mind. It's a really, really fun thing to show them. So,
all right. Yeah. Let's talk about the 190.
Oh, the little 190. Yeah. So this is clearly one of those situations where, the car is a one-off, right? I don't expect to do a whole lot of these.
Are there still a bunch of them back in the U.S.? Or?
No, this is a very rare car here. We don't really have these very often, and so this was, a bit of an exploration for us. It's obviously a very simple kind of town car, but we did everything in it. It's got air conditioning. It's nice. It's really well set up, and it's a fun round towner. You're not going to take this at 85 miles an hour on the highway, but you're going to. It's a great little car for that, for sure.
I wanted to go back to how you set up the business.
Sure.
If you had any advice for someone looking into setting up a business,
Sure.
how you grow your team.
Right.
So what would be your like top 5 advice?
Top 5. That's well, so I do think one of the things that made it very, I'm not going to say it was easy, but it was important for starting this business is that I had a large network of people who trusted me from my prior career, and I was able to use that as to get those initial clients, right? So it's very difficult to. I've seen other builders build a car as kind of a showpiece car and then hope, kind of if you build it, they will come, and you kind of go and you show it around and you don't really necessarily have the credibility. Everybody asks, how many have you done? You tell them you've only done one, and then they kind of back away. So it's great to have those initial clients that are in your network and can vouch for you, right? Can put your name out there. So that I think was really critical. I think when we started in 2017, we had to be broad-based. We had to, convert whatever was out there. Today, this is not a new phenomenon. People are aware of it and comfortable with it and excited about it. And if you can pick a car that you think is that you can specialize in, where you can build the expertise in it, I think that's a great way to do it. And then you can be known for that particular vehicle and take it there. So we're starting to do that now. Probably in hindsight, if we started a little later, we probably would have narrowed our focus.
Well, hindsight is.
Yeah, exactly. Hindsight, exactly.
Yeah. Let's go back in because the sun is killing me.
Yes, you're right. It's a little bit.
So how you started on your own, or did you have a team already when you started?
My background is the tech industry. So when I was in the tech industry, I really got to a point in my career where I was doing custom cars, hot rods in my garage, and it was my passion. It was my side project. It was the thing I came home and did after work or on the weekends. And it was time. You get in your 40s, you make these, you have these realizations that maybe you need to to make a change and do something that you can be really fulfilled by. And so that's when I started it. With the idea was in 2016. Did the initial car in my garage. It was. It was all in my garage, true garage startup, if you will. And we got the prototype done and felt really good about it. And when I say I really had this other life in the hot rod and custom community. So I was able to bring in good friends to help me, kind of execute the vision. And then actually one of our kind of the biggest influences I had in starting the business is I brought on Jeff Rainak, who's our mechanical engineer, and he's somebody that I've known since college. We literally met on the first day of freshman year, and he is PhD mechanical engineer, so he was able to bring all of the real world mechanical engineering expertise that we needed to build out these components. So the combination of me starting it, him bringing that expertise, plus pulling in from the hot rod and custom community was really kind of the crucible, if you will. And like I said, I did it in my my garage, and that was something that I got advice about, which is you get later in your life and your career and you grow accustomed to fun, niceties, and it's good to go back and run something like a startup, run it really lean and make it work. And I think that was kind of critical to our start.
So how do you find your team? Because there's no EV technician, especially conversion technician yet. So something we can talk about. So how do you choose the right candidate and how do you grow a team? Let's go a bit further down.
Sure. Let's do this. Get on.
So right now there's about 10 guys in your team?
Yes. So we have mechanical engineers, we have electrical engineers, but we primarily are staffed with technicians, right? And our technician job is a complicated one, right? That these cars are all, this isn't a factory job yet, right? You don't come in and you don't just turn a wrench. And
because you do something different every day.
You do. And so I need people who are kind of utility players, able to move from different things, but they also need to have the expertise, and more importantly, Jerome, they have to care, right? They really, right? Like, and we've hired people who come from primarily maybe a dealership or just a maintenance background, and I've rarely found that kind of skill set and that mentality
and passion.
Almost everyone here in this team comes from the custom car industry, right? So they've either worked at a custom shop or they've done their own work, and they bring that capability to the table. Because I want somebody looking at the engine bay and saying, if I route the wire this way, it'll look really nice if I do that, right? Like everything needs to look.
As you said, they need to care.
Yeah, they need to care. And when the owner is, spending the money that they spend to have a beautiful, electric Mercedes made for them, when they open the hood, it needs to look, can't look like a science experiment. It needs to look like something is really well engineered, and that's beauty, right? Like this is form is following function, but fundamentally it's still form, and it has to be, it has to look the part. So we look for that skill set. Primarily we need somebody who has been in that situation where they've had to put two things together that never meant, to put together, right? So
do you train your own team?
We do. Most of them are coming to they're coming to the table with all of the mechanical knowledge, right? So they have the tools, they know how to, torque things, they know how to do that. A lot of times we can't find the high voltage, experience, but the low voltage work is I think all very, very similar, right? And we really look for those skill sets there. I also joke about it, like this is such a high tech industry. If that person doesn't walk into the interview with a laptop under their arm, I don't want to talk to them, right?
Which is funny for a classic car.
It is, right?
Company,
and we do, and that's not just from the tuning perspective. And like we run this company like a software startup. We use Slack, we use Trello, we use all of these apps, we use all sorts of technology to kind of move our process along. This isn't a place where you just you come in and punch the card. Right? This is a startup, right?
So you're a startup, but you started pretty much 7 years ago.
Yes,
and you've outgrown this double building.
Yes.
So what's the next step for the company?
Well, I don't know. I pester the neighbor every once in a while just to make sure they don't need to find newer space. But yes, we're in the process of trying to figure out where we're gonna grow to. I think as I talked about, we've moved beyond just doing individual one-off cars. We're doing signature vehicles like the SL, like the Speedsters, like the trucks, and now some of these muscle cars. We're going to have essentially product lines, if you will, and that really does point to a situation where I will definitely still have a team of these utility player experts in lots of different things, but then you can specialize, right? You can say, hey, this is our battery, manufacturing line, and this is our, wiring harness, manufacturing line, or outsource some of those things and really just have that one level up, scale. And we're there. We're doing that now, and we're putting those plans in place.
Talking about outsourcing, what are your key partners in the industry?
So we work extensively, I think, with, in the smaller cars, we do a lot of, the net gain builds, so that they're there. And all of the bigger builds, it's primarily Cascadia. We are working with Felton quite a bit in the UK, so I really, Chris has got a great team over there, and they've been not just a supplier, but also a little bit of a, an intellectual property, sharing and guidance and expertise, and we kind of, I think
that's what is fantastic still with in this industry. It's still booming, but I know people from all over the globe. They share their experience and their technology, which helps the whole industry.
It does. It does. It is, as we say in the tech industry, blue ocean, right? Like there's not red, right? There's no fighting going on. We're all trying to do great things, and helping one another. So there's a lot of that.
We were talking about niche market also. The market is so wide.
Yes.
Every single market could be covered by one local guys doing, say, the Jaguars, doing the BMWs, and they will still be like fully booked for 2 years.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Oh, I don't think you answered my question earlier. How long does it take to convert a car when someone comes in? Are we talking about 1 year, 2 years?
Oh, yeah. So if it's a car we've never done before, usually we can get that done within 9. Like the Jaguar was about a 9-month project. And so that includes the engineering. And keep in mind, it's not 9 months of, somebody, working 40 hours a week on it. There's a lot of engineering, having some prototype parts made, test fitting, figuring it all out, and then coming back and forth. And then once we've done that, then you can kind of collapse the time frame like we would with an SL to somewhere, in that 4 month range or something like that. But so, sometimes it goes beyond a year, right? There's some of these projects that have
anything under a year. I feel it's quite quick.
Yeah.
So people need to understand when they start in their journey to order a custom car. That, I mean, any custom car, V8 or electric, anything under 1 year is quite good.
It is very good, yes. And we do, I don't want to mislead you. There's definitely projects here that have gone beyond the year.
How long did it take to convert this one, for instance?
So this one, I think this is exactly 6 months at this point.
Wow, that's very quick now.
Yeah. But it's not our first one. So the first one took a lot longer. Right? So, but we're there, and then The fourth one, actually it'll be the fifth one, is taking us probably 4 months, right? So it's we can kind of get it down now, and there are ways to optimize and ways for us to prepare better as time goes on. So
how many cars altogether have you converted?
we are working on our 37th car.
Wow.
Yeah. So we've been doing this for a while, and that's 37th car, but I think it's our 22nd or 23rd different platform, right? So that is a wide variety, right? Yeah, exactly. Maybe not the 20th or 21st.
Now is the time to scale on the main one, like these ones.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we're really excited about doing that with these. With the Blazers, with some of the other work we're doing in the trucks. I think it's going to be fun to do lots of those cars. So.
Do you sell your system as they are, or do you install them by default?
We only make them for ourselves.
Okay.
We are not in this to be a kit. We've always been about the client and about the final product, and we love being able to put the whole thing together and do that. That doesn't mean that we couldn't do that in the future, but it's not our primary goal, right? And in fact, we will install other kits. So I mentioned Felton. We'll install. We have 3 Felton 911s coming.
Okay.
So there's a lot of I think collaboration in this market, but also we're not here just because we want to own all of our stuff. We do what's right for us, and we do what makes sense.
And it might be more cost efficient to use another supplier.
Exactly. There's no reason to reinvent the wheel just to put your name on it. So
Excellent. Well, I think we've covered most of it. Where do you see Moment Motors in 2 years?
In 2 years, that's a great question. Well, obviously in bigger space, you can see we're barely able to to fit as much as we have. But I do think we also have essentially 3 businesses starting to emerge. So we will always do our custom. Exciting. Somebody brings a Lamborghini. Yeah, we're in. Let's try it, right? But then we'll have our repeats, right? So we'll have our SLs and our solutions that we implement, and we also have a few things in the works that we'll talk about in the near future, where we're working with other Restomod companies and building the drivetrain and solution for them. So I'm very excited about that. There's not much I can talk about on that, but there's.
Well, I guess we'll have to come back in.
Yes,
in 2
we'd love
years,
to have you. That would be great. Yeah.
Okay. So if you like what you saw today, if you want to know more about Moment and Marc journey and his team, just reach out to them.
Yeah.
If you like the video, just like and share it and subscribe, and see you in 2 years.
Oh, great! I love it.
All right.
Thank you. It's good to
Bye-bye.
see you.